Hello and welcome to the Game Changer. I'm your host Rafae Iqbal, and in today's show we'll be deliberating on elections in a very important country. Of course, we know that it is election year all around the world. In the month of February, elections were held in Pakistan. Then we saw the Indian elections taking place. And now it is moving towards the American elections, in which we'll see a face-off between the former President Donald Trump and the President Joe Biden. And of course, in that regards, we know it is a hotly contested elections. It's the Democrats versus Republicans. When we talk about ideologies, there's a lot of major differences as well. And when we talk about how their policies are going to affect the American population and their international relations, also there's a diverse difference between the two. And of course, in that regards comes the different aspects. We know that there's so much going on in the world at the moment. There's the Gaza war. And then there's the war in Ukraine and Russia. And of course, in that regards, there's a lot of tensions going on in the South China Sea as well. And we know that America is, and the United States of America is currently in a position where it will have to vote one of the two contestants in the race for the election of president. And of course, when this one candidate will be selected and elected, they will have their own policies and ideologies which they will move America forward. And of course, it's going to shape the course of the world community as well. We'll be discussing the different aspects of the American relations, the run-up to the presidential bid, and of course, the after effects as well. In the studios, we've been joined by Naveed Kahn, who's an analyst. Thank you for your time. We've also been joined by Sheharyar Khan. Thank you for your time as well, who's an analyst and being part of the show. I'd like to start off our conversation from Mr. Naveed Khan. Considering that these are going to be very hotly contested elections, it's President Joe Biden on one side and former President Donald Trump on the other side. And the politics in America, the domestic politics there, it has been a roller coaster ride, especially since the Capitol Hill riots. How do you see the politics in America transpiring up till now, till the elections are going to take place?
Rafae, we have experienced the elections of Clinton and Al Gore in past. And those elections were also very hot elections and controversial elections. And ultimately, Clinton, he won. Now, in the last term, we have experienced Mr. Trump in power. Trump has always been a man of controversy. During his tenure, the 4 years term of his presidentship has always been involved in different controversies. He is enjoying some advantages and disadvantages at the same time. As far as advantage is concerned, his policy has been pro-economy, and because he is basically an economist, and he believes in the strength of American economy. So, as he sworn in as president in past term, he flew to Saudi Arabia and then Qatar to have $24 billion deals of arms to both of the countries, $12 billion each. I mean, on the first spell. So it was a great success of Biden, and he fulfilled his promise that he will strengthen American economy as soon as he swans in, and he fulfilled that promise. On the other hand, during his tenure, the internal politics of America has been facing that turmoil. Because of that upheaval in the political matters, and he has been strong-headed with his political opponents. So he is having the same tempo and approach now entering in 2024 elections. And he has said in his campaign that he will appoint a prosecutor to have hot pursuit against Joe Biden. So it shows how he will go and how he will be revengeful to Joe Biden. And as far as Joe Biden is concerned, Joe Biden definitely is facing hot waters in the elections because of the Gaza war and because of his overall performance as a president of America. He could not deliver as he should have delivered as compared to the Trump's last term. The Ukrainian war is again a challenge for both of the American candidates. Will they support it, or will once again they will come back from their support? I don't think that they will come back. They will continue supporting the Ukrainian war against Russia.
Right. Mr. Sheharyar, what's your viewpoint on what domestic factors do you think are going to influence the elections? Of course, former President Trump has criticized the Democrats' decision of a nominee for the presidential candidate. And of course, the same comes from the Democrats. They have criticized Donald Trump's candidacy for the presidentship. What factors do you think domestically the American people are going to be focusing on when they talk about who they're going to support?
So, Rafae, when it comes to the basic issues that the American economy faces and what the people of the US are more concerned about, there are like 3 or 4 areas which the US voter is looking at. The first and the foremost is economic performance. Then there's rising inflation, which has resulted in a stricter or tighter monetary policy and rising in, rates of interest, which has really curtailed the availability of finance and raised a lot of housing prices and other prices of borrowing capital as well. So that has had an adverse impact on the economy of the US. Other than that, then when it comes to unemployment and the young people who are like looking for jobs, that's a big concern. These numbers have increased in Joe Biden's time, so he has delivered on that front as well. And Joe Biden also focuses more on infrastructure development, which needs a lot of support in the US economy. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been very critical again of Joe Biden, and a lot of detractors of Joe Biden basically point towards his age, and that has become a big issue, especially after the first presidential debate that we witnessed, in which a lot of critics of Joe Biden basically said that his performance was not up to par. And now when we move forward, Donald Trump, as always, has had a very neoliberal focus in his policies. He is very pro tax cuts. He is he is not in favor of government intervention, and he wants to strengthen the private sector as well. Another area which is taking a lot of contestation in the US economy is healthcare. So the whole idea behind Medicare has been coming into focus again. Joe Biden again is pro Medicare, and he wants to strengthen and broaden the base of Medicare. And Donald Trump, being a neoliberalist, he basically focuses more on the private sector, or they call it Medicare Advantage, which is basically more focused on private enterprises and how they basically see healthcare. So these are like the 4 or 5 big domestic issues that are taking prominence in the elections. And then obviously, as mentioned before as well, geopolitical considerations will play a very important role. Ever since Joe Biden has taken control of the Oval Office, the first visuals that came out were the US withdrawal from Afghanistan. And since then, I would say that America has always been in the spotlight with various crises. They were like the whole world was coming out of COVID crisis, and this Russia-Ukraine war started. After that, the Israel-Hamas war and the resultant genocide that has been conducted by Israel, that's like taking a lot of prominence. Then again, the US national security policy, which basically focuses on curtailing China in the South China Sea, and that's where the US wants to focus. But unfortunately, because of geopolitical happenings, they have to focus more on now curtailing Russia and supporting Israel in the meanwhile. So these are like some contentious issue that the Biden administration has had to face, and I personally think that Joe Biden has taken a beating when it comes to his policies internationally, and Trump is taking full advantage of the policies that have been very vocally criticized by supporters and detractors of Biden.
Rafae, one thing is very important to continue with Sheharyar. Trump has 2 advantages in his first term. Number one, those economic deals which really benefited the US economy. And number 2, he withdrew American forces from Afghanistan. And during the time of Obama and Bush, America was deeply or badly involved in different wars, and the economy was in in stress or pressure. But now, when he came, he withdrew from Afghanistan, and it really had very positive impact on America and American economy and American society as well. So Americans, they were very happy to come out of that war, and they were very comfortable because of that decision. Now, in Joe Biden time, Joe Biden, he supported Israel against Palestine, and Israel fought that war as a proxy of America. And continuously America is supporting Israel against Palestine. So he again involved America in another war in a way. Now, it will be a very, very important question or task for Trump as well. If he wins, will he refuse to pat the shoulders of Israel any longer against Palestine, or he will also continue it?
Well, Mr. Naveed, there was a recent presidential debate in which both the candidates kept quiet on the issue of Israel and
this is what I am saying.
Yes, exactly, and that is something that they'll have to clear their position on. But when we talk about domestically first, we'll come to the geopolitical situation as well. Do you think legislation in America and the policies they have for legislation regarding gun laws, immigration laws, or even abortion laws, they're going to be having a great impact on the voter support? And how do you think both the candidates with their policies, one is pro-liberal, one is a little conservative, how do you think that's going to affect the American politics in these elections?
I think Trump's policy of immigration was very hostile policy. Right from the start of that campaign, presidential campaign, he said that he will through all the Muslims from America, and he will cancel all the immigration facilities given to the Muslims of America. So it really annoyed the millions of American Muslims who are also the part of America. If they are Muslims, they are Americans as well. So I mean, it will really it has really annoyed American Muslims against their attitude towards Trump. As far as Biden is concerned, Biden is also very supportive to the Jewish lobbies. Both, Trump is also supportive to Jewish lobby, and Biden is also supportive to Jewish lobby. But both are not, having any good sentiment about the Muslims of America. So it has really divided American society and polarized American society, as far as the term of Biden and Trump are concerned. During the time of Israel-Palestine war, the polarization is added in the American society. In past, we have experienced that Trump tried to polarize American society, and we thought that maybe Biden comes and he will, cool down the society, or will do some very positive things for the calmness of the American different segments in different states. But we didn't see that, and it is a pity that a country like America is now facing such issues of polarization, of inflation, of the fight for the rights, fight for the rights of the minorities as well. So the challenges are there for America. On the other hand, they are combating, or they are having an eye on China. So with this policy, I don't think that America will be in a good position to combat China in this way.
Definitely a very important point that is. And of course, Mr. Sheharyar, what's your view? Because in the election where former President Donald Trump had secured his win, there were experts say that social media polls and surveys had a lot to play in those elections. Do you think in the coming elections, social media and the poll surveys are going to actually make a difference? Or is it going to be the same pattern that was in 2020?
So when it came to like the last elections in which Donald Trump basically won, there was like a lot of like a hue and cry of Russian meddling into the social media, and like the use of like Facebook and a lot of like international consulting firms.
Even then they blamed it.
Yeah, so they blamed it on Russian, interference, and I clearly remember Donald Trump and his team basically denied any sort of meddling. So this time around, there have been a lot of Senate House committee meetings in which they have invited, the owner and the founder of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, and he has been under a lot of crossfire from all segments of the US society on curtailing the misinformation that is available on social media channels. So they have put in a lot of checks and balances, but obviously this is a time in which all different stakeholders from various different political spectrums would be using all sorts of social media. Then when it comes to TikTok, that has also divided the US society as well, in which that social media platform has been linked very closely as a national security concern because of China's ownership or part ownership of that platform. So when it comes to freedom of expression, freedom of ownership, and regulation of social media, this is also a very contested topic in the US, and that will also have an impact on the elections this time around as well. Another very important topic that is of global importance, that is also dividing both candidates, is their stance on climate change. Historically, Donald Trump has been very skeptical of, he even denies that such a concept exists. And in his last presidency, he also got the US out of the Paris Agreement as well. And he also, went back on a lot of environmental laws that were there. And he's very pro-energy independence by using fossil fuels, which also goes against the spirit of the Paris Agreement as well. On the other hand, President Joe Biden, he is more receptive to the idea of climate change, and he is more focused on removing the US dependence on fossil fuels and moving more towards renewable energies, and he also is pledging that if he comes back into power, he would rejoin the Paris Agreement as well. So these are some of the areas which are of importance, and both candidates are very opposed. When it comes to the Israel-Palestine issue, I think even in this presidential debate as well, I think Donald Trump is unequivocally pro-Israel. And he has also given very harsh statements and criticized President Joe Biden when he curtailed some bomb supplies to the Israeli military, which were very, very heavy bombs and which would have caused even more collateral damage. So President Donald Trump, or former president, criticized that greatly, and he basically said that it was a very weak position from Biden's side. And Biden is trying to balance both lobbies. He's also trying to balance the Jewish lobby, and he also, because he's perceived as a democratic progressive president, so he also has to basically balance his minority voters as well, which are Hispanics, which are Muslims, which are generally the non-white community in the US. And in that area, he has really lost his popularity because of his pro-Israeli policy, even though the rhetoric has been that he is against genocide and he is against collateral damage, he is against, and he also now very slowly his administration is also talking about a ceasefire, and they're trying to broker a deal. But the fact that Israel has never paid heed to any of his suggestions has generally, I think Donald Trump is right in that sense, that he has appeared weak, not only in front of his constituency, but globally as well. So that has really dented his credentials in the last year of his presidency, and I think that will have a major impact on his re-election campaign.
Definitely, right. I think Israel war will have a very important impact on US presidential elections, and Joe Biden is on weak grounds because of that war, because he has been very strong supportive to Israel against Palestine. So he has annoyed almost everybody in America in this war. Not only the Muslims of America, but also the Jews of America are also against this war. So they also have been having those agitations against this decision of continuing this war any longer. But Biden is really in a good position to cultivate all benefits out of this situation, because Biden is or Trump is in a good position. Though both of the candidates are not very strong candidates as far as the American nation is concerned, they are not ideal candidates as far as the American big nation is concerned. I mean the stature of those politicians or political presidential candidates is not of that level, which should have been considered far before the presidential nominees. But now I think Biden is in a weaker position,
Right.
and maybe Trump will win the elections. But when he wins, what will be the 4 years ahead in U.S.
Right.
Will the U.S. be in a very good position to focus on the inflation or unemployment, or as far as the economy is concerned, or the war fronts are concerned? It will be a big question for both of the candidates. And I think Biden, in first term, Trump lost his second term. Now Biden is going to lose his second term. And it will be very interesting, because in past we have been experiencing that the American presidents, if winning the elections, they continue the second term as well. But since Trump lost, now I think Biden is going to lose it.
Right, that's a very interesting aspect of the conversation that has just come up. And in regards to that, because we're talking about how both of them, Biden trying to balance out his policies between the Israeli lobby and the international community, whereas Trump seems pro-Israel at the moment. When we talk about the American population, we've seen university protests going on, we've seen protests all over. There was a recent report for the United Kingdom in which it said that the overseas Pakistanis and the overseas Bengalis, they consider the stance of the politicians on the Israel-Gaza war one of the key components of who they're going to vote for. Do you think it's going to be the same in America? And if it's going to be that same way, either of the two candidates, whether they're going to balance it out or they're going to support Israel, they're going to be in a bad position in front of the American population. How do you comment on that?
Rafae, it will be very difficult situation for both of the candidates, because this situation has created problem for both of the candidates, and both of the candidates are trying to balance the situation, but they cannot balance it out, because you cannot balance a bad with the good. You will have to be very clear, and and the American nation, you cannot make fool of them. And American nation is coming out and having protests against American policies regarding Israel-Palestine war. So they think that if Israel is not going for any truce or any ceasefire, it is America who is behind it. And they believe that if America today announces or withdraw its support to Israel, America will decide to go for a ceasefire. So the Middle Eastern issue will really overlap, or will really overshadow American elections, and it will really swallow Biden's future as a President of America for the next term.
Right, as Mr. Naveed said, it's going to hurt Biden's politics. What would you say about Trump's politics? Do you think it's going to be tough for him as well? Because as it's seen, the university protests, they're like the American version of an Arab Spring. Considering that when Trump wants to portray himself as pro-Israel, how do you think that's going to come off to the American population when they're so agitated already?
So, Rafae, I have a very different view on this whole issue. I think both presidents, and I think most of the Congress and the House of Representatives, they're all very pro-Israel. So that discussion is off the table, whether one candidate is more pro-Israel as compared to the other. They have different approaches to it, and those approaches are also nuanced. For example, President Joe Biden basically believes in a ceasefire. He also believes that there should be work done towards a two-state solution. Trump, on the other hand, is unapologetically pro-Israel. He is very dismissive of the two-state solution. He also basically wants to give unprecedented support to the Israel military as well. And he also, in his tenure, moved the US Embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing that as the capital of Israel. Other than that, he also accepts or supports Israel's sovereignty on the Golan Heights, which is also a very contentious issue. When it comes to the students and the student movement, or I would say the university spring of sorts in the US that we are experiencing, that whole student movement led by the students has given indication to the Democratic Party led by Joe Biden that the young voters or the youth of the US, they are probably not in favor of being pro-Israel or any Israeli policies now or in the future as well. So the voter trends in the US will be changing. The Biden administration is noticing that, and that is why they are now altering their rhetoric. I also personally think that there is a long distance between rhetoric and practical steps as well. Right now, I think both sides are just giving lip service when it comes to the two-state solution. I personally think the whole American administration has historically been dismissive. They do say that they want it, but the practical steps that we see, as they say, the actions speak louder than words. The actions are not indicating in that direction as well. So my analysis would be that when it comes to choosing between two evils, one, there's like Trump, and the other is Biden. Just because of the fact that the rhetoric or the wordings of Biden are slightly more inclined towards a two-state solution, I think the progressive elements or the progressive students or the youth or the progressive voters in the US would eventually choose the lesser of the two evils, and that would be Biden.
Right.
And Rafae, one thing is more important to add with the Sheharyar. If Biden loses now and Trump wins, Biden will lose because of his very weak policies. And the issue of Israel-Palestine will be one of them, those issues. Now, with the win of Trump, it will be again a big challenge for American nation or America or the President of America if Trump wins, how he will continue those next 4 years as a President of America to build a positive or strong image, American image within America or internationally.
Right.
And once again, if he continues or if he adds polarization after winning, if he adds polarization in American society, he will have that repercussions against him or his policies. And I think that added polarization in America after the elections will create problem for America rather to solve the issues of America.
Right.
So on one hand, he will have to tackle this situation. On the other hand, he will have to address the unemployment and economy of the country.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm coming to. From what I'm gathering is that Israel being a strategic ally of America, and both the candidates, if we're talking about them generically, they will have to support Israel. But at the same time, there's more of a resilience in the American population towards what leadership or the governance structure of America wants and desires. Do you think there's going to be this clash between what the government wants and what the people want, and specifically in the conflict of Israel and Gaza?
Definitely. The wills of the American masses is different, and the wills of the American candidates for the elections is a different thing. So the candidates, any one of them, will try to implement or enforce his party wills or decisions after winning the elections, and that will really have a very bad impact on American nation, because as a politician you can go for any slogan or any promises, but when you win you will have to face the nation and you will have to deliver it. If you don't deliver, definitely you feel you face the repercussions of the post-election situations.
Mr. Sheharyar, what's your view? How can both the candidates focus on reducing this friction, because any of them, if they come to power with the policies, because Israel is going to stay their strategic ally, how do you think they can convince the masses and their allies as well at the same time and try to reduce friction, because this is a challenge that both of the candidates are going to face?
So, Rafae, given the stance of both candidates, both are pro-Israel, both basically support Israel's right to defend itself. And they've both given very strong statements in support of the Israeli state, and a lot of them even believe that Israel is the 51st state of the
Sorry to
US
cut you, but it's gone more like a genocide than the right to defend
Yes,
itself.
exactly,
So it's time they should reconsider their.
So I'm talking about the rhetoric that they are basically giving, or the narrative that they are giving to their voters. Outside the US probably, and a lot of segments within the US society as well are very clear on what's happening. And so I'm just talking at the policy and at the election narrative level.
Right.
So if I basically analyze Trump's last presidency, and if that is any indicator on how, if he comes to office, what policies he would be taking forward, I also believe, or judging from that time, Trump has always been very anti-intervention. So he has always focused on reducing the conflicts internationally and the US role in them. And if you remember, a lot of his critics also basically blamed that he was very pro-Putin as well, and they had a good working relationship going on, and they met very frequently as well, and that also reduced a lot of frictions between Russia and the Western audience. When it comes to Ukraine, I personally think he would want to get out of that war. He would not want the American taxpayers funding this war any longer. So that is a stark difference from how the Democrats or the Biden administration wants to basically deal with the Russian issue or the Russian-Ukraine war. Other than that, when it comes to the Israeli-Palestine issue as well, I think eventually Donald Trump would also want the US to pull out of that war as well, because at the end of the day, it is an intervention. It is an intervention that is being funded by the US taxpayers' money. Initially, obviously, he will talk the big talk, as he is very famous for. He also prides himself in being a very good deal maker. So he would, and if you remember, he also went to North Korea as well, and he basically started negotiations with Kim Jong-un as well. So he prides himself as somewhat of a peacemaker, a negotiator, and he has proved it. And obviously there are a lot of policies that are set for criticism, but we have to appreciate his achievements and successes as well.
As far as the comparison is concerned between the both of the candidates, I think that Trump is a better candidate as far as the performance is concerned than Joe Biden. During the term of Trump, he has delivered more better, or he has more successes in his basket as compared to the Biden's successes. If you say, just mention any success of Biden, I don't think that there is any success which I can mention, but we can even mention many successes of Trump as a president of America. And so, as Sheharyar has already mentioned, that we can expect very good things from Trump as far as the Ukrainian issue is concerned, from the Israel-Palestine matter is concerned, or the America-China even, because he is a businessman, and he believes, and he thinks that if we cannot benefit America with having head-on collision with China. So as far as his China policy is concerned, he will really benefit America. Because the multinational companies, many of the multinational companies have billions or trillions of dollars of investment in China. And China is big market for America, and America is also a big market for China. So these factors will really benefit America if he wins.
Right. And what do you think the situation is going to be regarding the Korean Peninsula? Because America is actively engaged with South Korea and Japan in conducting military drills, and of course North Korea on the other hand has said that it protests against these military drills. How do you comment on that?
I think America is very smart. At this stage, this is a very positive slogan for the American nation to raise before going to the elections. I think after the elections, America will not go for any mischievous decision regarding this Peninsula issue,
Right.
because it will really engage America once again in another region. So as far as Trump is concerned, I don't think that Trump will go for any such venture if he wins, and I don't think the Biden will also support it.
Right. Mr. Sheharyar, what's your views regarding the Korean Peninsula?
So yeah, again, given both candidates, I think Donald Trump, if he comes to power, he would more be willing to start some negotiations again. He would be taking forward the rapport that he basically built with the
and diffuse venture
and diffuse tensions especially. And I think the whole American establishment now has this focus that they need to get themselves out of these regional conflicts and focus more towards some sort of contestation with China, or curtail the rise of China, as it's mentioned. Other than that, when it comes to the American establishment, Pentagon, the defense industrial complex, they're not very pro-Trump. And they're not pro-Trump because of the fact that Trump is not pro-intervention. So that also will play a very important role on how the defense industry of the US, which is one of the largest in the world, sees Trump. And the recent Supreme Court's decision that came, I think, yesterday, that has also given a lot of impetus, I would say, or they say that breathe a new life into his campaign as well. And now, but that is also related to his time. We can go back to the time when he appointed a lot of conservative Supreme Court judges as well, and I think in the long run it paid off, because those judges basically accepted his plea, in which he basically said that the president, any decisions he takes in his presidency are covered under immunity. And the Democrats have come out, and even President Joe Biden gave a statement that this is not a good precedent, and he criticized the decision by the Supreme Court. And now a lot of critics are basically saying that if President Trump comes into office, the first thing he can do is ask the Department of Justice to just finish this whole what he calls a witch hunt against him, and he can also pardon himself for whatever interventions he's been accused of in the 2020 elections. So I personally think that is also giving a lot of impetus to his voters as well. So his campaign will now be stronger, and obviously after the results of the first presidential campaigns, there were also rumors that whether President Joe Biden even should be standing for elections, or is he physically fit enough to basically compete or perform when it comes to putting a challenge to the Trump voters. But now I think it's more or less settled. It will be Joe Biden because of the incumbency factor, because of taking his policies forward, continuation of policy, and obviously the fact that there is no one to replace him. And it's very unfortunate that in a country, and we were talking about this before the program even started, that country as big as the US, they could not find any other candidates, and we.
I mean, it is a pity for the American nation that, as you were saying, it is a pity as an American nation that the entire America, or the Democrats or the Republicans, they don't have any other choice of Trump or Biden. I mean, as to represent a nation who is supposed to say superpower. So superpower should have the candidates of international stature. So unfortunately, both of the candidates are not of that stature which American nation should have. So I mean, it is a pity. But on the other hand, if we say that any one of them, if wins Trump or Biden, what will be the fate of Kashmir? It is a matter of concern for us. So I don't think that we will have any positive thing or any very good news from America regarding Kashmir. They will continue supporting India as far as the Kashmir matters is concerned, and Pakistan will have to go for a very, very effective lobby in America and in United Nations, in European Union as well, to just support or strength or gives that strength to the Kashmiri nation in America and in UN, so that they should not be demoralized, diplomatically. This issue will remain unresolved until it is resolved according to the wills and wishes of the Kashmiris.
Right.
So I think we need to struggle hard, or the Kashmiris will have to struggle hard in America and in the European Union to make the things more effectively, understandable for the American decision makers or the European Union decision makers.
Right, a very short question, just like you mentioned how things are going to be for Pakistan after the US presidential elections. As we talked about how Trump's a great negotiator, he believes in diplomacy, in dialogue, he wants to make deals rather than engage in conflict. Do you think he would have a more global support than Joe Biden when it comes to diplomacy or diplomatic efforts as compared to Joe Biden?
Yes, I think Trump is more diplomatic, or he will engage himself as the American leader or American president to the entire world. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, Pakistan stands nowhere in American policy at this stage, and America has nothing to do with the Pakistani internal politics or in any matter of internal politics. It is Pakistan is an independent and sovereign country, and Pakistan cannot face or bear or have that American pressure as far as the internal politics is concerned. So it's out of question.
Right, Mr. Sheharyar, do you think Trump is going to have support from the international community, the international leadership, because of his diplomacy, his negotiation skills and deal-making skills over President Joe Biden?
When it comes to the Western Hemisphere, I don't think they would be very happy with Trump coming into power.
Right.
With the Western Hemisphere, I'm like focusing more towards the European Union or the European nations, which are fearing, a very aggressive Russia and like an expansionist Russia. Because Trump historically in his previous tenure has been anti-NATO as well. And he has also basically asked the European nations to basically do their part in strengthening NATO, and he always asked why the US has to pay for their defense, which is a big alarm when it comes to the European nations that are now focusing more on strengthening NATO. Even like Sweden just like joined NATO, and a lot of other countries historically which have been neutral are now joining NATO because they are fearing that Russia might not stop at Ukraine and it might have ambitions to expand its influence in the region. So at that critical juncture in which all of these European nations are going out of their way to support Ukraine, if Donald Trump comes into office, I think that would also like take a massive hit, and that is like something that the Europeans are fearing. Again, this goes against the policies of the American establishment as well, which is also very anti-Russia. It goes against the policies of the defense industrial complex, which basically profits hugely with various conflicts across the globe. And that also as a alarm if President Trump comes into power over there. Again, when it comes to funding of the United Nations, I'm talking about like the good parts and the bad parts. President Trump historically has been very anti-UN. Any UN agency that criticizes the American foreign policy, historically President Trump has curtailed their finances and their funding from the US government, and this will continue as well if we look into the future. So when it comes to developing countries, developing funds, donor relationships, when it comes to the role of the USAID, when it comes to role of funding multilateral organizations, I think under the presidency of Donald Trump, that will also take a major hit. And I personally also think a lot of like UN agencies might even have to curtail their operations globally as well. That will have a huge impact.
Quickly, I will add to Sheharyar's comment. It shows that Trump as a candidate of American nation, he takes more care of the American interest than Joe Biden. So, being economist, he always focuses on the economy. So, he always takes care of that American taxpayer money. Where is it being used? Is it being used in the wars? Is it being used in the different nations? No. So he takes care of these things. So it is, his pro-American policy or pro-nation policy. It is a positive thing for him as a candidate of America in future.
Well, positives and negatives, we discussed both of these regarding the two presidential candidates, and of course there are good points and bad points. Of course, it is up to the American people to decide who will be their next president. We discussed all the different aspects of the two presidential nominees and the presidential debate that was held earlier. I'd like to thank both of our panelists, the esteemed panelists Naveed, Aman, Kahn. Analysts, thank you for your time and joining us in the studios. Sheharyar Khan, analyst, thank you for your time as well and joining us in the studios, being part of the conversation. It was lovely having both of you. And of course, that was the different aspect of the American presidential elections. See you same time tomorrow, and we'll be discussing a different topic tomorrow. Till then, take care.